The Galactic Council had convened an emergency session for the third time in as many cycles, and Ambassador Zenth-Ka of the crystalline hegemony was beginning to understand why his species had developed stress fractures in their mineral matrices. "The humans have done it again," announced Council Speaker Vorth, his four eyes blinking in rapid sequence, a sign of deep disturbance among his kind. "They've made contact with the void crawlers of Sector 7. A collective shudder ran through the assembled representatives. The void crawlers were nightmares given form, writhing masses of shadow and hunger that had terrorized shipping lanes for millennia. They consumed light itself, leaving behind only cold emptiness and the screams of their victims echoing through subspace. "Impossible," chittered Ambassador Shula, her mandibles clicking nervously. "The crawlers don't communicate, they only devour." "That's what we thought," Forth replied, his voice heavy with resignation. "But apparently, the humans discovered they were just lonely." The holographic display flickered to life, showing footage from the human exploration vessel Friendship's Dawn. Captain Sarah Chen stood on the bridge, speaking calmly into her communicator while outside the viewports. Massive tentacles of living darkness caressed the ship's hull with surprising gentleness. "Council log, day 15 of first contact," Chen's voice crackled through the speakers. "We've established that the void crawlers, who prefer to be called the Umbrian, have been trying to communicate for centuries. Their natural state absorbs electromagnetic radiation, which we interpreted as attacks. They were actually reaching out, trying to share their loneliness across the void." Zenth-Ka's crystalline structure resonated with disbelief. This was precisely the kind of impossibility that had become routine since humanity joined the galactic community 50 years ago. It had started small. The humans had somehow domesticated the razorfin swarms of Kepler Station, creatures that had been strip mining asteroids for their metallic content. Turned out they were artists, and the mining was their way of sculpting. Now they created the most beautiful metal gardens in known space, working in partnership with human designers. Then came the plague mothers of Titan 7. Ancient beings that spread deadly spores across worlds, they had been the subject of countless extermination campaigns. The humans discovered they were actually trying to terraform dead worlds, preparing them for life. A simple translation error in their biochemical language had caused centuries of misunderstanding. The scream-born of the Dark Nebula had been next. Psychic entities that drove sentients mad with their telepathic wails. The humans learned they were composers, creating beautiful music that only they could hear, until human neural interfaces allowed others to experience their symphonies safely. "How?" Zenth-Ka asked, finally voicing the question that had haunted the council. "How do they do this?" Vorth activated another recording. Dr. Elena Vasquez, humanity's leading xenobiologist, appeared on screen. She stood in what looked like a laboratory, but the walls were covered in children's drawings, crude crayon pictures of various alien species, including several that the council had classified as extinction-level threats. "The secret," Dr. Vasquez explained to an unseen interviewer, "is that we don't start with the assumption that they're monsters. We start with the assumption that they're people, just very different people with very different needs and ways of expressing themselves." She gestured to the drawings. "These are from my daughter's kindergarten class. When I show them pictures of new species we encounter, they don't see teeth and claws and danger. They see someone who might be sad or scared or just trying to say hello in the only way they know how." The recording shifted to show a human child, perhaps 6 years old, finger painting alongside something that resembled a cross between a spider and a storm cloud. The child was giggling as the creature helped guide her brush with tendrils of controlled lightning. "That's a junior tempest," Dr. Vasquez continued. 3 months ago, they were considered a Category 5 hazard after they accidentally destroyed a mining platform. Turns out they're natural artists who work with electromagnetic fields. They were trying to create a greeting display. The destruction was just artistic enthusiasm. Ambassador Shula leaned forward. "But surely there must be some species that are truly hostile, some beings that cannot be reasoned with." The display showed Captain Chen again, now standing in what appeared to be a garden. But instead of plants, Crystalline structures grew from the ground, pulsing with inner light. Moving between them were beings of pure energy, their forms shifting like living aurora. The Sun Killers agreed to relocate to uninhabited systems, Chen reported. They never meant to harm anyone. They feed on solar radiation and didn't realize that some stars had planets with life around them. They're actually quite apologetic about the whole thing and have agreed to help us identify suitable stars for their feeding grounds. The recording ended, leaving the council chamber in stunned silence. There is one species, Vorth said finally, that even the humans haven't approached. The Devourers from beyond the galactic rim. They consume entire star systems, leaving nothing behind. As if summoned by his words, an emergency klaxon sounded. The chamber's main display showed a priority message from the human diplomatic vessel. Extended hand. Captain Chen's face appeared and she was smiling. Behind her, visible through the viewport, was something impossible. A massive structure that seemed to exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously, beautiful and terrifying in its alien geometry. Council, this is Chen. I'm pleased to report first successful contact with the Devourers, who, by the way, prefer to be called the Gardeners. Turns out they're not destroying star systems. They're harvesting old, dying stars and replanting them as young ones. They've been trying to share their stellar cultivation techniques with younger species for eons, but their communication methods were a bit overwhelming. She paused, her smile growing wider. They've invited us to collaborate on a galaxy-wide reforestation project. Apparently, they've been quite lonely out there on the rim, and they're excited to finally have someone to talk to about their work. Zenthka felt something crack in his crystalline matrix, but for once it wasn't from stress. It might have been laughter. The humans, it seemed, had befriended even the beings that were afraid to make friends, afraid their very nature would be misunderstood, their attempts at connection seen as attacks. In doing so, they had transformed not just the galaxy's understanding of its so-called monsters, but revealed the monsters that fear and misunderstanding had made of them all. And somehow, impossibly, they had made the vast galaxy feel a little smaller, a little warmer, and a lot less lonely.